Hi, Mark here. Monday, April 27th, 8 a.m. Eastern, 12 noon. US session now underway. Let's have a look how the market shapes up this morning. Starting on the US dollar index on the daily chart, you see that following up from Friday, the sell-off we saw in the US dollar continuing today through the Asian and European session and now going into the US session. Weak US dollar, certainly to start today's session. I've got resistance 98.49. I've got support at 98.11, and sellers will be looking to test this 98 level. Trend is still up. EMA, as you can see, leading indicator above the lagging indicator. We'll see how that plays out for the rest of today. Sellers will look to test this 98 even lower. If we get a turnaround from the weak to strong US dollar now that the US session is underway, buyers will look to bounce up off this 98 area, 98.11 where we're sitting now, and look back up to the resistance level or higher. But weak US dollar to start the US session. Let's have a look at the S&P, where we are an hour and a half from Wall Street opening up, and you see a continuation of this demand for US equities, which has been in place since the beginning of the month, since the beginning of April. Very strong trend, record highs we saw last week again to close the week, and today I've got resistance at 7,208. I've got support at 7,173. We'll see whether that demand continues for US equities, if this resistance level is tested and perhaps even higher, or if we're going to get a turnaround from this resistance area and sellers step in and look back down at the 7,173 support level. At this point, overbought technicals and profit taking haven't yet entered the picture, and certainly still going into this US session today, looks like we are seeing demand again for US equities. Let's have a look at gold. Small green candlestick, so gold has strengthened on the day, but if you have a look at the dailies, you'll see following last week's close, a gap lower to start this week. So buyers have recouped the losses from the gap lower and sitting pretty much at last week's close around that 4,700 area, which looks to be a comfort level for now. Buyers will look up at resistance 4,730. Sellers will look down below this 4,700, and I've got support at 4,669, and it's a strong support level. You can see it's been tested since the middle of the month. Unsuccessfully, sellers have been unable to break below this four or maintain below this 4,700, and buyers have guarded this area. I've got a downtrend in place. I've got lower highs in place. Almost a semblance of a descending triangle. We'll see if that does continue, if sellers are able to eventually break and maintain below here, or if buyers do step in like we've seen so far today and continue with this demand for the safe haven commodity and test this, get back up to testing this resistance level and take out Friday's high and get back up to these 4,800 would be the target on the upside. Let's have a look at Brent oil. Sitting at that 100 level, kind of become a pivot dividing line for now, that the 100. And as we see talks, negotiations, and any hope of a peace settlement not looking good in the Middle East conflict, we're seeing prices back up to that 100 level. I've got resistance to that 102.32. I've got support at 99.58. When we did here, when the ceasefire was first announced, we saw prices come down back towards that $90 level. Now that we're seeing the talks not giving us anything to work on right now in terms of an optimistic outcome, so we see prices get back up to that 100, maybe even higher. I'm looking, even though it's red candlesticks, the technicals are a little bit conflicting because yes, red candlesticks, but I do have slightly higher highs and I do have slightly higher lows as well. Let's have a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin struggling to get above that 79,500 red candlestick today, and that uptrend finding it difficult to maintain at the 78, 79,000 level. Sellers in control today. I've got resistance at 79,571. You can see a potential double top at these highs of today, and I've got support at 77.4 thousand. Sellers will look to break below this support level, which was guarded by buyers last week. Look to get below the 77 back to the 76. Sellers will maybe look to even come and test this ascending trend line area, which would give possibly be an opportunity for buyers as well. But for now, hang around this resistance level, unable to break higher. We'll see how that plays out through the US session. Good trading. Keep that discipline. I'll see you at the end of day.